Do you mind just looking at the camera and stating your name?
My name is Alex, and I'm here for the interview today.
Great, Alex. So, you know why you're here and what we're offering, the chance to go back in time and undo a moment from your past. If Clearview Incorporated chose you, what moment would you go back and undo?
I would go back and kill Kennedy.
Okay. Do you mind sharing a little bit more?
Well, I know that someone else kind of, history kind of wrote itself on that one with Kennedy getting assassinated and all, but, you know what? I feel like things happen for a reason, and, Kennedy, I know a lot of people liked him. I know he inspired a lot of hope in people, but I kind of wonder where things would have gone if Lee Harvey didn't get to him first. I mean, the Mafia, they didn't exactly like him. Cuba, they didn't like him. I mean, man didn't exactly keep it in his pants. I mean, Mafia was kind of after him for sleeping around, and it's like, what if he just stuck it in the wrong socket? I think history might have been a little different if he kept going. I mean, maybe he would have had an affair with, like, the wrong woman, and, maybe Cuba would have been a little more likely to nuke us.
So you would like to see America get nuked?
I'm not saying I wanted America to get nuked. I'm saying I wanted to prevent it from getting nuked.
Oh, so if you were the one at the helm of taking Kennedy down, do you feel you'd have more sort of influence in what our present would look like?
Oh yeah, I mean, Kennedy, kind of think he was a bad influence. I mean, telling America that they could just sleep around, and I don't think he was that terrible of a guy. I just think he made some poor decisions, and maybe the world would have been a bit of a better place. I mean, I know there was this idea that he was a very optimistic president, but I just don't see it that way. I mean, maybe if things had gotten to him first, I mean, his death, when you think about it, he created a lot of hope, but his death also created a lot of panic, and I feel like without that false hope he created, there would have been a lot less panic after his death.
So your thought is to take him out way before he becomes president?
Oh yeah, even before his PT 109 days. I mean, that's when I feel like a lot of the inspiration started. I mean, I can respect a man in uniform, obviously, but even before the space race, I mean, maybe if that man has priorities in order a little bit more, maybe we would have been up in space a little earlier. I mean, there was all that Sputnik hoopla, and I think America would have been orbiting Earth way before the Ruskies if Kennedy had been thinking a little less between his legs and a little more up here.
So, talk me through your plan.
Well, I'd travel back in time, and the man had the PT 109, so I think that would have been the prime opportunity to maybe take him out beforehand, maybe sabotage a little bit. I think the hard part is only getting rid of Kennedy and not harming the other people who didn't have that much of an impact on history. But anyway, maybe not putting him at the right place at the right time, and making it a little easier for the old enemy to get to him first.
Oh, so you're thinking of creating a situation where he could be taken out instead of you being the one who actually takes him out.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's not easy to take a life, but so maybe I'd make it a little easier for everyone whose mission it was, and hey, maybe someone who, you know, history hasn't spoken on anybody who actually did that, so you know what, just another nameless person who just took someone out and, you know, went home to their family, made their family life a little better.
Just the unsung hero.
Right.
So, if you're chosen to go back in time, you'll have 1 hour. 1 hour to affect change. I mean, this sounds like a very complex plan. Do you think that this is something you could do in an hour, and how are you going to go about? What are the steps?
1 hour. Oh. Thought I'd have a bit more window of opportunity. Well, you know, I guess I just have to expedite the process. I mean, you know, get old Kennedy's trust, and maybe, you know, I think I'd have to spend a little more time on the history books, maybe reread a few of Kennedy's books, and, you know, maybe find out a little more about where he was so he can be at just at the right place at the right time, like right before, like find out exactly where he could be when he was in the Navy, so he could be at the, so, you know, I've used the phrase right place at the right time, but, you know, suddenly he'd find himself at the wrong place at the wrong time when I'm through with him. And, you know, what maybe influences his opinion a little more. I mean, you know, his ships were attacked, so maybe I can influence him and speak to him a little bit and put him somewhere where maybe his ship was hit.
So the way this process works, a lot of it depends on satellites. We use satellites. And the further back in time you go, the less satellites that are in orbit there are. So we recommend not picking a time before 68, because any time before that, it's going to interfere with the ability to bring you back and the success rate of bringing you back. However, the absolute furthest we could probably send you back would be 58. But that's almost a guarantee that we wouldn't be able to retrieve you. Does that bear any weight on your decision or your thought process of when you want to go back in time?
Well, I mean, I'm a man who doesn't have a whole lot left. I mean, I don't really have a family or a whole lot of friends, and it's like, you know what? If I can make the world a better place, then I think that would be my value. I mean, you know, it would kind of stink not being able to see the results of what I did and the contribution I made. I mean, I'd see it in the short term, I'd see it play out, but I mean, I wouldn't see the long-term effects of it, and you know, just living in a world that you know, doesn't know what I did. You know, a world that never experienced the things that you know, the long-term problems that Kennedy caused. I mean, but if we're going back to 68, if I'm going back to 68, I mean. If I'm going back to 58, I mean, you know, that means that, you know, I could still stop Kennedy in his tracks, and that means I could still go ahead with my plan, though I'm going to have to adjust my plan a little differently, because, you know, that was when that man was on the rise to power, and that means it's going to be a little harder to put him out of our misery.
And that would be worth it to you?
Yeah, I think it would be worth it. I mean, you know, one man's lost an entire country. I mean, and forget just one country. I mean, it's possibly an entire world's gain. I mean, America is such a superpower that I think that it would make it, that would expand the world. I mean, you know, we're preventing the Vietnam War here, and that's preventing a conflict on a completely different side of the world. And you know what? America as a country might have a different reputation with that. I mean, you know, maybe we'd have a little more influence. I mean, you know, a lot of people died in Vietnam. I mean, we could have had like another Kennedy, but that's someone who probably got killed in Vietnam.
So you really are the unsung hero that you talked about earlier.
Yeah, I don't think, yeah. I mean, no one's gonna, I mean, you know what, I'm probably not gonna be in the history books if I go ahead with this plan. I mean, you know, you'll probably forget about me once you sent me back and forget my name, history book. I mean, you know, history books, they're not gonna write about me. I mean, hell, I may even get killed in the line of duty with that one, and just remembered as some unknown assailant who killed Kennedy. But you know what? I got nothing to lose, and it's something a man's gotta do for his country.
That's very inspiring. Do you have any concerns about the process?
Well, I mean, you said satellites. I mean, you said you'd guarantee. I mean, God knows where I'd end up. I mean, it could be like some interdimensional thing where you try to send me back and I end up all the way on the other side of the world. It's like, you know, it's not gonna do me a whole lot of good to try and kill Kennedy when I'm all the way in Melbourne, Australia.
Well, and that's why we asked you to think about what specific location would you go back to?
Oh, okay, yeah, I'd have to. Yeah, I better bone up on my reading, find out where Kennedy was back in 1958. I mean, you know, there's always, like I said, there's security issues. I mean, I bet that man had like armed guards around him all the time. I mean, maybe I'd have to get good with him and, you know, maybe make him realize the what's going on. It's like, I mean, probably gonna sound like some kind of crazy man going back in time and telling people that these are the things that are gonna happen and this man's gonna cause all these problems.
That's something to think about. In the past, this technology is nowhere close to existing. How do you go about explaining to people who you are?
Well,
why should Kennedy trust you?
Well, maybe I'm gonna have to cook up my own backstory once I arrive back in time. I mean, you know, maybe just acclimate myself to the time. You know, maybe relearn some of the lingo of the 1958. I mean, I'm gonna have to pretend. I mean, I think I'm gonna have to pretend I don't know what I know.
That would be hard. Do you think you could do that?
Well, you know, I mean, I think one of the real challenges is, you know, stifling myself every time I hear, you know, there are certain cues, like, you know, I bet the man already had his White House aspirations set up back then, and I'm gonna have to, you know, stifle myself and, you know, not say that, you know, say things aren't right, you know, maybe discourage a few of his ideas every time. You know, I know his Ich bin ein Berliner speech was something that gained him a lot of trust and a lot of followers. You know, maybe start discouraging him when he's building up a lot of those ideas.
Have you thought about your persona for when you go back in time?
Well, I'm gonna have to, you know, Kennedy. He wasn't a fool, you know. He probably didn't trust, didn't trust a wandering drifter like me. You know, maybe build a backstory about a family that he can, maybe build a backstory about a family I can trust. I mean, maybe I'm gonna have to find some people who could pretend to be my family. Maybe gather up a few people who see things the way I do, you know, either before I travel back or once I travel back, and they can pretend to be with me so I can gain the future or former, however you want to look at it, president's trust.
Sounds like quite the feat.